Aloha and welcome to the first of two candidate forums that are being presented on Zoom and Akaku and Facebook Live. But thanks to the Haiku Community Association. I'm Kathy Collins. It is my great pleasure and privilege to be co-hosting tonight's forum. First off, want to say mahalo to the HCA and Akaku for facilitating this opportunity for you to get to know your candidates. Also, want to say mahalo to Tim Wolf, who put in a lot of preliminary work on these forums. He was to be my co-moderator, but unfortunately will not be able to do that. However, that means that we have the very capable and charismatic and super experienced Lucienne Dene, who will serve as co-moderator. So mahalo to Lucienne as well. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we actually begin. These questions that we'll be asking tonight have come from you, the community. We've spent over the last month gathering your questions and putting them together. Viewers, you can post questions this evening. If you're Zooming with us, just put them in the chat room. If you're watching on Facebook Live, go ahead and post in the comments section. However, I have to tell you, it's likely that we won't get to your questions just because of the limited time that we have. Now, tomorrow night's forum will proceed at the same time on the same venues, same links, 6:30 in the evening, and that will be for the county council races covering Molokai, Lanai, West Maui, South Maui, and Kahului. Tonight, we feature council candidates for the races that our Haiku community, of course, is most interested in, and that would be East Maui or Hana, as well as Haiku, Paia, and Makawao. And we are pleased to be speaking with our Statehouse District 13 candidates, three of them in the general election. We will be we'll be asking the questions of our Statehouse candidates first of all, and that will take about 45 minutes, and then we'll devote the rest of the time to our county council candidates from those two races. Now, we'll be asking the same questions of each candidate, different questions, of course, for the House and the council seats. But within those races, all candidates will be asked the same question. You will have 1 minute, or in some cases, a minute and a half to answer each question, and we'll let you know what the time limit is as we ask the question before you answer. When there are 15 seconds left before the deadline, you will get a verbal warning. We ask that you please use that remaining 15 seconds to wrap up your answer, because unlike Chris Wallace, we do have a mute button and we're not afraid to use it. You will each have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1 minute each for a closing statement after the questioning is over. The order of candidates who will be answering, as well as in your opening and closing statements, will be rotated so that everyone gets an equal shot at being first and last to answer. And let's see, I think I've covered all of that. Are there any questions? Nope, I didn't think so, because everybody's well prepared. Then it is my pleasure to introduce to you our candidates for Statehouse District 13. That's the Canoe District, covering Lanai, Molokai, East Maui, and Kaho'olawe. We will begin. We're doing this in alphabetical order. And so first we will hear from the incumbent, Representative Lynn De Coyte. Welcome, Lynn. You have 2 minutes.
Hi and aloha, everybody. Aloha mahalo Haiku Association for putting on this forum tonight. Honored to be here. My name is Lynn De Coyte. I am running for District 13, which is the only Canoe district that entails Molokai, East Maui, Lanai, Kaho'olawe, and Molokini. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, husband, Russell De Coyte, my 3 children, Carrie, Russell Jr., and Dylan, and my 2 wonderful grandkids, Manuel and Kennedy. The reason why I'm running is because I can appreciate the fact that living in a Canoe district, we're limited on the resources and services that of urban Honolulu has. I come from a farming and ranching background. And during this pandemic, as we try to work in a virtual type of setting through technology, our challenges exist in the fact that education and making sure the Kiki have internet services, have food, have shelter has been a priority of mine. um, Trying to look at the pandemic in itself today and making sure my colleagues of the legislature understand how important agriculture is in feeding our people. In making sure living in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we need to look at sustainability factors. We need to understand without food, water, of which water has been a major issue on both Molokai and East Maui, fighting the strong battles and making sure a strong voice for District 13 is there. I can assure you that many of those fights that have been long existing have been addressed. And in most cases, it has been near and dear to my heart. So as a mother, as a legislature, as an advocate for most situations, I believe in honesty, truth, being realistic, and keeping everything pono. With that being said, mahalo, and I look forward to tonight's forum and its questions. Aloha.
Thank you very much, Representative Lynn De Coyte. And now we hear from the Aloha Aina Party candidate, Teresa Kapaku. Welcome, Teresa. You have 2 minutes.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Teresa Kapaku. I am your Aloha Aina candidate for House District 13. I want to thank the Haiku Community Association for hosting this forum. I want to mahalo to Akua, to God, and to our supporters for giving us this opportunity. So mahalo nui. I am a mother, a farmer, a businesswoman, and community advocate living off grid in beautiful Kipahulu, East Maui. I am running this year to protect our land, reefs, and water, to protect our small businesses, our farmers, and to create green jobs. My experience is versatile and dynamic. As a farmer, I grow, harvest, and manage getting organic, chemical-free produce to the community. As a businesswoman, I co-founded a company that helps the state, cities, school districts, and other large-scale end users in saving millions of dollars in utility expenses, implement renewable energy, and reduce their carbon footprints. My belief is that we must transition from a reactive to proactive governance. Now more than ever, we need well-paying jobs, affordable housing, and protection of our natural resources. I believe that water is life. And when you extract water from a community, you extract life from a community. We can take action immediately and transition to a thriving economy without sacrificing the health of our land, reefs, water. It's time to set a new standard for leadership, one that is dedicated to progressive action. We have a lot of work to do, and I have the heart, energy, and experience to make it happen. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo, Teresa Kapaku. Our Republican candidate, Robin Vanderpool, did confirm participation, but has not made it yet on board our Zoom webinar here. I believe we have staff trying to track down Robin and get them on board, but I believe we should just go ahead and proceed with our questions, and this will make rotating easy because now it's just back and forth. My co-moderator Lucienne and I will begin with the first question.
Mahalo, Kathy, and welcome everybody. Really great to have the participation we have tonight. I wanted to correct one little thing that we had in our announcements, and that is there will be separate links for tonight's forum and tomorrow's forum. So just go to our web page, Haiku Community Association web page. It's probably on the Facebook as well. So if you want to watch tomorrow's, you can go to that link, that special link for tomorrow. It's different than tonight's. Our first question, so who's going to go first here is, I believe Teresa would be going first, and then Lynn would follow. So our first question is, what do you think the three major issues facing this district are, and how can they be addressed? And this is a big question, a minute and a half each. So Teresa, would you like to share with us?
Mahalo for that question, Lucienne. As I mentioned in my opening statement, protection of natural resources is one of my top priorities, and I know it's a big issue here in our district, especially in Haiku and Paia, and coming around to Ko'olau and East Maui. So I believe that all three of the top issues that I've identified through the community all revolve around the same concept, which is the protection of our culture and our lifestyle. So to preserve what we know as to be the chosen life that we've chosen as residents to live here in this beautiful agricultural district of District 13. So as we would like everything to coordinate with that, the economy and jobs is a priority number one underneath that, and it has to coincide with being pono with our culture and lifestyle. So green jobs, including modernization of our infrastructure, ways to reduce waste by improving old technologies and by improving old buildings and old systems. Through protection of our natural resources, our water. I believe that all streams should run Mauka to Makai, and we need to do whatever we can to protect that. I would like to see community-based DLNR type services. I'm sorry? Oh, yes. I'd like to see community-based type of DLNR services where our community residents are activated to help protect our natural resources within our communities. Lastly would be managed growth and managed tourism to find ways and create ways to reduce the influx of the growth and the development and the tourism coming into our small rural communities.
I'm sorry, we have to leave it there, to be fair. Thank you. And on to Representative Lynn De Coyte. The same question, the top three issues in our district and what you'd like to do about them.
Sorry. Of course, thank you for the question. Of course, one is we've always had our challenges with access to services and resources like that of urban Honolulu. We continue to make sure that our infrastructures are improved. Secondly, updating our infrastructure, which I have done with CIP appropriations in our roads, in our schools, like Paia School. Making sure those funds that are necessary for that of educating not just Native Hawaiian kids, but kids in general, making sure haiku schools that have asked for extra added supplies, just the simple walkways, Hana school, making sure that they have their infrastructure in place. Of course, third is always protecting our natural resources and fighting invasive species and protecting of our water. We were able to put funds behind the Koki Frog barriers through DLNR. I think our challenges with DLNR is every time we put funds behind DLNR, our chair seems to move it into pet peeve projects. And those are the problems that we have when we allocate these funds and earmark these funds, that they tend to get moved to elsewhere. I think we need to have more transparency within directors that serve under here. And again, our community within District 13 has been very vocal on these areas. I also believe that within protecting those water resources, that we should never move water from one ahupua'a to another, which is why farmers like myself have always championed water issues like that for development on La'au and East Maui water situations, allowing now for our water to free flow back into those areas. Challenges now is to make sure that those areas are clean and free of debris, which is why we were able to put in $4.5 million to work on this. Mahalo for the question.
Mahalo. Well, Kathy, back to you.
All right, Robin Vanderpool has not joined us yet, so we'll move on to our second question, and this time, Lynn, you will get to answer first. And this question, we are giving you 1 minute each to answer. Haiku streams have been completely diverted by for the plantations of Central Maui for over 100 years. Now, since the closure of HC&S, the streams flow some of the time. Residents would like to have actual stream flow standards set. If you are elected, would you, as a public official, ask the Water Commission to begin an in-stream flow amendment process for haiku streams? And could you elaborate on your answer, please? Representative De Coyte.
So of course, mahalo, Kathy, for the question. I think getting in from 6 years ago, it has always been about our East Maui water system. So of course, we can always begin to request intro flow amendment process for haiku. And this is where the $4.5 million that I've requested in CIP funds that I secured with the help of my colleagues will be used to restore infrastructure and to ensure usable water and flow of streams. I want to thank Eddie and Mahealani Went that took me on a tour of the taro patches and streams in Wailua Nui and to the Keanai Kala farmers that I was able to bring in the Department of Ag, their inspectors, to take a look at this firsthand and be able to look at the disrepair of that infrastructure and again provide $4.5 million in CIP funding. Mahalo for the question.
Mahalo, Lynn. And Teresa, the same question to you. If elected, would you ask the Water Commission to begin an in-stream flow amendment process for haiku streams?
Yes, mahalo for the question. Absolutely. I would approach them on behalf of the community. And in addition to that, we would elevate it above and beyond just that commission. The running water Mauka to Makai is so very important to our Keanai farmers, to all of our farmers in East Maui, all the way from Paia into Kahiki Nui. We need those waters to be flowing in order for us to preserve the natural hydrology that surrounds that ecosystem. So yes, absolutely. And on any other topic that it relates to our natural resources, I would go to bat for my community, without a doubt. I also have been following the WUDP with the Haiku Community Association, and I have been involved in the Zoom meetings and watching closely what's happening and testifying on behalf of the community in order to keep those wells from getting drilled from haiku. Mahalo.
Mahalo. And back to Lucien for question number 3.
Thank you. We're zooming right along. This time, of course, we're reversing the order again. So this time, Teresa will go first, and Representative De Coyte will have the last word. What would you, as a candidate, propose to manage or limit visitor trips on Hana Highway to Hana Town to a reasonable level that works for the residents and businesses of the Hana area? A 1-minute question, please.
There have been some ideas that have been thrown around regarding reservations at Waianapa Napa, as well as some of the other more popularly visited attractions in Hana. I would like to start from a systemic approach and build an ecotourism agency within our state in order to specifically address all of the concerns for our entire islands, including Hana, and how we can transition to a 100% eco and sustainable tourism economy. Mahalo.
Thank you. Representative De Coyte, ideas from you?
Of course, during this
I'm sure you've heard this concept before. Sorry for interrupting.
No. So first of all, right now during the pandemic, we're able to hold some virtual meetings in regards to the situation that we're dealing with. Myself, as well as Senator English, wanted it to be a bottom up and not a top down. It needs to come from the community, and the needs need to then, and the message carry forward need to be that of this new world that we plan to build within the community. We've seen what tourism has done within the infrastructure, which is what's posed on many of our CAP projects, which is about roads and bridges and making sure that it is an eco-friendly situation for all involved. At the same time, being able to give to the community and the visitors alike that of its cultural practices and being respectful of coming into our district. So we have had community meetings and a community management plan at that aspect. Of course, it is then becomes our job to advocate and lobby for funding and carrying that message. So we have everybody on board and in alignment with the message that's being carried by the people for the people. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Some great answers there. And Kathy, back to you for question number 4.
Thank you, Lucien. And again, we will rotate. So Representative De Coyte will have the first word and Teresa Kapaku the last word. The state is looking at a steep drop in revenues due to losses of the TAT, the Transit Accommodations taxes, and sales taxes as well from the drastically reduced visitor numbers. What ideas will you propose to boost state revenues, and what areas would you propose budget cuts in?
Of
Lynn?
course. So, of course, thank you, Kathy, for the question. We've seen where we are with tourism. We know that we're not going to get tourism come back right away. I believe the reallocation of tourism dollars to the Department of Agriculture, to the Department of Human Services, and to the Department of Health should be a must. There's excess funding that will be sitting there. I think cuts need to be made there. I think the idea, which many have thrown around, lottery, marijuana, those things have come up to play. I think we need to revisit those areas. As most of us know, many of the residents that do live in Hawaii make their trips up to Las Vegas. Why not use those funds right here in Hawaii and use those to help supplement our education system and in the high needs areas, especially in our district that is very rural, that needs much more resources and services in those areas. For the question.
Thank you, Lynn. And Teresa.
Mahalo again for the question. I'd like to see capital gains taxes for out-of-state land and homeowners. Also, I see as a consultant in the buildings, in the industries related to energy efficiency and renewable energy, that there is a lot of waste right now within our state. So I'd like to see us cut the waste. Also, to see the $80 million that is currently being allocated to the Hawaii Tourism Association be reallocated to small farmers and small businesses, and again, to go renewable energy. Mahalo.
Thank you, Teresa. And I'd like to say mahalo to both of you for keeping your answers, your thoughts so well organized and concise. We appreciate that. All right, back to Lucien for the next question. Lucien, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I had to get a glass of water. Question number 5 is about our public schools. And if public schools continue to meet partly online, how should our district make sure that all our keiki can have the computer equipment and adequate internet access that they need for their students? And what is the state's role in this? This is a 1-minute question. And I believe that we have Teresa going first this time. Yes.
Mahalo, Lucien. So currently in Hana, rural East Maui, we have had those complaints about how do we get access to Wi-Fi. Where I live, the Wi-Fi is very spotty and it's about an hour drive to the nearest computer location. So a couple of ideas. One is to utilize the school when nobody's in it, create sanitized social distancing areas where students can come in limited and use the computers for a limited amount of time. We also have a mobile bus that runs around with Wi-Fi on board. And so that's a great opportunity to provide each one of those Wi-Fi buses in each of our communities for access for the children for school. They could even possibly have computers or laptops there that people could borrow while they're in their communities to do their schoolwork. Mahalo.
Thank you. Lynn, your ideas on the schools?
So, of course, thank you for the question. Of course, infrastructure that DOE needs to work with the phone companies in each area to ensure internet services as well as access to mobile hotspots. I was able to work with Spectrum, especially for the areas in Hana, to open up all their hotspots. Unfortunately, somebody stole the battery. allowing for this access of uninterrupted service has been a big challenge. Just recently, Hawaiian Telecom has been able to provide high-speed internet in these areas. In the areas of Twin Falls, we've had major disruption in Ho'oilo. Hawaiian Telecom has reached out and put more fiber optics, is what I'm being told. On Molokai, 600 people will now be able to access high speed due to the fact that Sandwich Isles has done a poor job of, and Hawaiian Homes, of having those that are homeschooling their kids deal with this. I think for us, it's been communicating with the schools to see what is needed, especially in rough terrain areas, to make sure we have those towers that are set up. As the rural areas and isolated areas, it's been very challenging to get those companies to want to come in and put in lines or towers, and then again be able to survive throughout their businesses. And again, it will be all hands on deck and working with those, whether they be big business or small business, because we can't do it all by ourselves. Mahalo.
Thank you. A lot of good ideas there. All right, Kathy, back to you.
Thank you, Lucienne. I seem to have all the water questions on my side of the program because it's a big issue. Water is life, right?
Right.
So, East Maui water issues, leases are back in the courts this year. Now, if the state Supreme Court rules on behalf of citizens, the current short-term stream diversion permits that Mahipono and East Maui Irrigation rely on could be invalidated. If you are elected and a new bill is introduced to allow the short-term permits to continue, in your opinion, should a Supreme Court decision be overruled? This is a 1-minute answer allowable, and we'll begin with Representative De Coyte.
Thank you for the question, Kathy. Of course, it's been a lot of water battles for all of us. Absolutely not. In fact, I've introduced previous legislation, which was House Bill 1573, and I've worked with the Sierra Club to make sure East Maui, its residents have water, and the current Maui Water Board of water users are protected. I believe working with colleagues there, for whatever reason, the rest of upcountry Maui has sufficient water, but to allow for these permits to continue in long term, I'm absolutely against it. I believe you need to show need before you have access to that water, and everybody should be treated the same equally as we have with the Department of Ag. If you need a water meter, you need to show the farm plan. So absolutely not. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Lynn. And it's to you now, Teresa. Same question, 1 minute.
Mahalo, Kathy. No, I would not overturn it, primarily because I believe and I support community-based water rights. The farmers in that area have been growing kalo for hundreds of years. So it doesn't make sense to take water from one area to move it to another in the name of agriculture when you already have agriculture. So absolutely not. And I'm a strong proponent of making sure that that water flows back to Kenai, back in Ko'olau, where it belongs, to the taro farmers who have been working so hard for generations to keep their family businesses going. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you both for your answers. Back to you, Lucienne.
All right. Well, we're getting to the end of our 45-minute section, and we're doing really good on time. I think 2 candidates is perfect. Anyway, our next question has to do with our public lands. As I'm sure both of you know, District 13 includes thousands of acres of public lands. The state and its departments act as trustees of those lands, but they kind of lack management funding. If the state budget is tight, do you have ideas on how our streams, our watersheds, our fire, safety in the forests can be managed on these public lands? And we're giving you each a minute and a half because this is a very important topic, some food for thought. So I think we'll be starting with you, Teresa, this time. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, Lucienne. And I'm so grateful for this question because this really raises up one of the things that I really want to push forth in this campaign, which is the belief that nobody can take care of our communities the way that our communities can take care of our communities. It's the most efficient approach, in my opinion, because we're already here. So I'd like to see a community-based resource management program where we employ our residents of our community to keep watch, to possibly issue citations, and non-arrest, non-confrontational type of enforcement. I believe that presence is huge. Just having someone available to keep and mind an area is so powerful that it would reduce the reactiveness of DLNR. So for instance, if something happens, we call DLNR. The nearest DLNR agent from where I live could possibly be 2+ hours away. By the time they reach our community, the crime, the perpetrator, or whatever need we have could already have been gone and passed. So I'd like to see us have more of those types of positions in our communities, employed by people, the residents of our communities. And in addition to that, I'd like to see the state and the county jobs continue to hire, thank you, to hire folks within our communities to fulfill those jobs instead of importing people from other places like the mainland to fulfill state and county and national park jobs. Mahalo.
Thank you. Representative De Coyte, your thoughts on the public lands?
Of course, management is key. At the same time, while we have partnerships and those partnerships with MIS and DOFA, Maui Watershed, people that we work with, it really boils down to, as our communities have come forward and expressed themselves, and they're trying to be respectful. It gets to a point where it falls on deaf ears. And I'm saying this because when we try to put funding in the high needs areas that need to be looked at, in this case, coqui frogs, we put in a budget and you have a director that tends to move it into a pet peeve project. What we need more restrictions of what a director can do with this, so that the focus and requests that's been made by many within our communities will address those things of management within our forestries, management within coqui frogs that have just become full-blown, and the minor funds that then becomes allocated within Department of Land and Natural Resources, we end up with chump change. I think we need to look internally, and I believe in transparency, but if you're 1 out of 51 people, the workload is there, and it helps when also a community comes behind it and gives supporting testimony, so that the director, in this case, Chair Case, understands what the value behind a community and community input is. Mahalo for the question.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the thought that our candidates have put into these questions. They did get the questions in advance because they're tough questions and they're going to need a little time to put some thought into them. Well, we're down to our last question for the state candidates. And Kathy, the honor is yours.
Thank you, Lucienne. Do you feel that visitors are paying their fair share for the wear and tear on our parks, natural attractions, roads, water systems, restrooms, etc.? What will happen when large visitor numbers return to our islands? And we will go back to Representative De Coyte for the answer first. 1 minute, please.
So of course, it's about waiting for the tourists to return, being able to work with my colleagues. I don't feel that they're paying their fair share. You travel to the mainland and you get whacked with some of the highest taxes there. We've put in a rent-a-car surcharge, which would have been based on the amount of tourists that travel through our roads. Those monies and the increase on the rent-a-car tax would have been used for our roads. It could also be used to help offset water restrooms that visitors use. At the same time, water that we use ourselves, making sure the availability of it is there. I think the question being that, those that do travel it, even if one of us travel within as a tourist, we also have to pay our fair share. So you'd be considered a tourist yourself. I think we need to look at, as we would have in cars, Kama'aina rates. those things could be used to help offset costs. We do need to worry about the people that live here so that they don't continue to move away. But a rent-a-car's tax charge should be put on to help offset costs and input it on our tourism industry. Mahalo for the question.
Mahalo, Lynn. And now to you, Teresa.
Mahalo, Kathy. I don't believe that they are paying their fair share. I live in Hana, and quite frequently we hear helicopters, EMTs, people are getting lost, people are getting hurt. And a lot of those times, those costs are passed down to the residents. We want to make sure that people that are breaking laws, trespassing, going into areas where they're not supposed to be, are footing their own bills for the emergency care that they require. And in addition to that, we would like to see more citations to help enforce the rules of our community by giving those citations to visitors who thinks it's okay to trespass, to abuse, and to do crimes basically in our backyards in rural East Maui. And so, yes, no, I don't believe that they are paying their fair share. Mahalo.
Mahalo. And as Lucien said, those are the questions that we had provided in advance to our candidates. We appreciate the community input that went into organizing these questions. And now we will allow each of you to give 1 minute closing remarks.
Since we only have 2 candidates, maybe if you guys would want, you could take 1.5 minutes each. I mean, we're really doing good on time.
That's true. And we can certainly do that and still have plenty of time for our county council candidates. Let's see now. Lynn De Coyte had the honor of going first with the opening statements. And so we will have Teresa Kapaku from Aloha Aina Party go first with her closing remarks. And oh boy, you get an extra 30 seconds.
Well, I'll take some of that time just to show my appreciation for the Haiku Community Association. I'm very impressed at the association and how active they are in the community. They're really a shining star in District 13 with how all of us in all of our communities can get engaged and make a difference. So mahalo to Haiku for being a great inspiration for us. Folks, this has been a really interesting time for all of us. And I'm confident that my unique combination of green technology experience and homestead farming will suit me well to represent this large and primarily agricultural canoe district community. Together, I believe that we can get well-paying, stable jobs while simultaneously taking care of the land and our people. Let's transfer the wealth from foreign development and off-island corporations in favor of our local small family-owned businesses and communities. Let's make sure that we're supporting our small farmers, not necessarily large-scale agricultural poisonous farmers, but the ones that are small, organic, and struggling to get by now. I am one of those farmers. My neighbors are those farmers, and my family are those farmers. So I'd really like to see our Hana district, as well as Molokai and Lanai, begin to thrive. With the wealth of our islands, with the amount of tourism that we have seen, there's no reason why any Hawaiian resident should be struggling to get by. So I'm asking you this year to do something great, to vote for change, to vote for organic, to vote for pesticide-free, herbicide-free, return streams, Mauka to Makai. I'd also like to encourage you to look for the Organisaurus, as he's going to be stopping through East Maui Haiku to Kaupo, and he'll be spreading the word about the importance of organic chemical-free produce to help protect our health and our lands. Join the fight at teresakapaku.com and Facebook Teresa Kapaku 2020. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Teresa. And now, Representative Lynn De Coyte, you have the final word on the closing remarks.
Mahalo and thank you. Of course, Haiku Community Association, for the beginning, and I started 6 years ago. There were many challenges that we had in District 13, from schools not being able to have added classrooms, from water being diverted from one ahupua'a to the other, addressing these issues and be able to provide legislation, working with all kinds of businesses. It's not really about whose business is better, whose business is not. It's about the people. It's not just about Hawaiians. We don't discriminate. It's about all the people and all the residents. As you know, if you travel within the Canoe District, every island, every district has different needs. Some businesses, some rural, isolated, some that do not want development in those areas. We respect all those areas. We continue to support all. Whether you're organic, you're non-organic, you're conventional. I think what we really got to look at, what is the track record of people? What are they doing? Are they growing food? What kind of food are they growing? Being a third generation homestead farmer and still being able to farm today, being able to farm sweet potatoes when my grandmother first started it, being able to work on a ranch and provide food. And seeing this pandemic go by, agriculture has got the least amount of funding ever at the state legislature. And maybe by now, people have realized within my colleagues at the state legislature that it has always been about food, water, shelter. Those are the things that District 13, the simple people like us with common sense. I think sometimes we just lack the part of common sense, so it's actually there. I'd like to continue to finish off making sure those streams continue to flow. Definitely, our ocean resources are always at the top of our priority, making sure water doesn't get cut back and be sent down into areas of tourism. We constantly have focused on tourism, which is why we're in the situation we are today. And who do we turn to? Those that have been farming and ranching. And most farmers do not condemn other farmers. They uplift them, they work with them, they take a look at what's there. And I believe I am the right candidate. I want to continue to represent these areas. I do understand the dynamics of it. And during this pandemic, was able to step up to the plate and work with those partners that people have condemned. And those were the ones that came to the front so that we could feed all people, not just individuals or isolated out and discriminated against others. I believe this is what we need. We need diversity, we need balance, we need somebody that has a strong voice in advocating and working for all people that are involved. Because when all is said and done, we must make sure that everybody is safe, healthy, and that they have a good rapport to make sure that they can make those decisions. For more information, I say take a look at voteLynnDeCoyte.com and you can get more information. But on November 3rd, and when the ballots drop, please vote Lynn De Coyte. And if you have any questions, email us or contact us. Mahalo Kathy, Mahalo Haiku Association, and aloha Teresa. Look forward to having more discussion.
Mahalo to you both. It's unfortunate that Robin Vanderpool wasn't able to join us this evening, but it was wonderful to have so much time to devote to both of you and hear all of your answers to all of our questions. Lucienne? You got to unmute.
Unmute. Yes, I didn't mute myself, but you know how it is. We have a master chef here. Thank you so much for our state candidates, and we really appreciate your diligence in looking at these questions and taking them, to heart. Because we are a little community, just like Molokai and Lanai and Kipohulu and Hana, and it's just that we have a lot of little communities combined into one area that's called Haiku or Hoelo. So we're going to move into part 2 of our forum tonight, which will be our county council candidates who also are active in this same District 13. And we will have 4 candidates tonight. We will have the candidates for the Hana district seat, and that is Shane Sinensi, who is the incumbent, and Claire Kamalu Carroll, who is challenging for the seat. For our other council race, we will have the Paia Haiku council seat, and we will have the incumbent Mike Molina and the challenger Asia. Asia, is it Erie or Irie?
Ire.
Ire. Yes. Thank you.
It's not my name. I inherited it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since the primary forum. Anyway, Asia and Mike will be trading places, just like and Claire and Shane will be trading places, just like we have before. We're trying to keep it so that the folks that are running for the same seat kind of answer questions side by side, so we can evaluate them at home without trying to remember, oh, well, what did that other person say? Oh, they're running for a different seat. So also we will be trading off just like we did before. So we'll go back and forth. First one person will be first, then the other person will be first, so that no one ever just only gets the last word or only gets the first word. And we will be starting with a opening statement, just like we did for the state candidates. Those are 2 minutes. And so our order for these will be Claire will go first and Shane second. And then Asia and Mike will go third and fourth. Also remember at home, if you do have questions, we are running into having a little extra time. So if you want to post questions and you're watching on Facebook, please do. We'll see if we can fit them in or combine them with questions we already have. So without further ado, we will start off with our Hana candidate, Claire Kamalu Carroll. 2 minutes. Thank you. Claire, we need you to speak so we see your picture.
We need to unmute. There you go.
There we go. Because you were the first one here. You should go.
Aloha. This is Claire Kamalu Carroll, and I live in Hana. I am running for the Maui County Council East Maui seat. My campaign involves first the health and welfare of our community, which is important in this pandemic. We cannot address homes, infrastructure, water, and we need to get our community back to work. I come from a town where many people have lost jobs. In this pandemic, it has been important to support our community. I have been ongoing for months, delivering food and doing essential work for our kupunas. In this 2000 election, one of my top priorities is thinking out of the box, getting the jobs done on priorities, reducing the budget, and doing our nonprofits and taking care of them before we can't depend only on the government. It's about sustaining what we have here in Maui County, and not only Maui County, in Hawaii. That we support our community and get through all of this together with strategy of helping small and large businesses and not discriminating against what community member is or was. We're a diversified community, and I truly work well with others. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Shane Sinensi, it's your 2 minutes, please.
Aloha kako, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
Miley, we can hear, yes? We're good.
Okay, aloha, I'm Shane Sinensi. I've been an active member in my community for over 20 years. As a teacher, practitioner, and a public servant, I've worked closely with my community, first as a special needs teacher, a kumu, a coach, the Hana Community Association chair, an advisory committee board member, and as the Ahamoku representative for East Maui. As the current environmental, agriculture, and cultural preservation committee chair, we hired the first ever county archaeologist to inventory and preserve some of our cultural burials and sacred sites. We also passed Bill 52, which restricts the use of single-use plastic foodware due to its detrimental impacts on our oceans and on our beaches. As the president council member, I've addressed many loopholes that trouble our local government, including the enforcement of illegal short-term rentals and stopping the gentrification of our local neighborhoods. Myself and others have worked to redirect millions of dollars caught up in active litigation and instead fund projects that fix our environmental problems. Finally, affordable homes that flip out of affordability has created a housing shortage and the proliferation of investments being exported off island. So prioritizing truly affordable home projects for local families is one of my main priorities. There is still lots of work to be done on the county, including investing in our own food security on the island and planning for climate change and sea level rise. This requires the political will of council members ready to do the work, and I'm readily available to help fund such efforts. So, mahalo for having me tonight. Aloha.
Mahalo very much, Council Member Sinensi. And we're moving over to the Paia Haiku seat. We're going off alphabetically here when we start out, so that's just how we thought we'd flip the coin. So Asia, you are first, and your 2 minutes, please.
Aloha, I'm Asia Iyer, and I am running for the Makawao Haiku Paia seat. And I want to let you know a little bit about me. I have been married for 20 years, and I am the mother of 5 children. My oldest just graduated from Kekalike High School last year, and my youngest is a first grader. What I've learned from being a mother would help me as a council member because I know how to work hard. I am a really hard worker, and I know how to help people get along and cooperate. Something you learn with a large family, of course. Something else that you should know about me is that I graduated from Harvard University with a degree in anthropology. And so I am a lover of research and gathering accurate and honest data and research. I really love doing the hard research. I love reading as much as I can, reaching out to the community and working with people on both an individual and a community-wide basis to help reach accord and to help people cooperate again and to find out what the actual needs of the community are. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm a tireless voice for the youth in our community. Most of my work in the community has to do with our youth and teenagers and young adults and helping them find purpose and a clear path to better life for themselves, especially if they can here on our island and their island where they've grown up. I've worked for the last 20 years as a small business consultant, education and business editor, and a small farmer. And I've learned a lot from those things, and I have learned a lot about a lot of different industries. And that is what has really formed my platform and my eagerness to be a council member, and that is to find equity between our environment, between our economy, and between the health of our residents. I really look forward to meeting the residents of Maui who don't know me yet. So if you can, just reach out. I'd like to talk to you on a one-on-one basis or check out my website to learn more about my very specific ideas for my candidacy. Thank you.
Lucienne, you need to unmute.
I know, I keep being muted by someone. I don't know. Council Member Mike Molina, it is your 2 minutes to tell us why you are running for office.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Molina, currently a sitting member of the Maui County Council. I'm seeking re-election to the Makawao Haiku Paia seat. One of the reasons I'm running for public office again is that I'm very passionate about public service, and I've always maintained a leadership style that reflects a calm, level-headed approach. My ability to work together and to be open to new ideas has resulted in effective and groundbreaking legislation, which I've authored over the years, which includes the Affordable Housing Fund, First-Time Home Buyers Fund, the Outdoor Lighting Bill, and the Plastic Bag Reduction Law. My nearly 20 years of experience on both the legislative and executive branches of government has given me a deep understanding of how to effectively process and expedite legislation. For the Paia Haiku area alone, for this term, I've worked very hard with the community and my council colleagues to secure funding to purchase open space property in Peahi, a study to restart the process for a new fire station in Haiku, parking lots improvements, a clean and safe program, and safety fencing along Hana Highway for Paia. As the GET chair, I supported placing all 7 charter amendments on the ballot for more public participation and get more people out there to vote. I supported several 100% affordable housing projects in Central Maui, South Maui, and West Maui, along with securing funding for a comprehensive affordable housing plan, which we definitely need. And I also voted to settle the Lahaina injection well case and supported Councilmember Sinensi's proposed bill for the single-use plastic bag ban or plastic utensil ban. For me, my priorities for the next term, should I be returned to office, it will include rebuilding and diversifying our economy, affordable housing, public safety, and improving our water and road infrastructure. And last but not least, doing what is right to respect our host culture and protect our natural resources. Mahalo.
Thank you very much to you all, and so glad you could come out and participate this evening. We're going to go to our first question. So Kathy, we're passing it over to you.
Thank you, Lucienne. Candidates, you will have 1 minute each to answer this question. And as Lucienne explained, we will be rotating the order in which you deliver your remarks or your answers. The question itself is almost a minute long, so I'm going to ask you to please listen carefully so that I don't have to repeat it verbatim each time. But we will begin with our candidates from the Haiku Paia Makawao district. And that means that Councilmember Molina gets to go first. The question is, the council is considering establishing community advisory committees for Haiku Paia and South Maui, similar to the already existing Hana advisory committee. Would you support amending the county code to permit community advisory committees to hold public hearings on all planning matters concerning their district, and then forwarding their recommendations not to the Maui Planning Commission, but directly to the County Council, with the exception of special management area permits? Mike, you are first up at bat. 1 minute.
Thank you for the question. I've introduced creating a Paia Haiku Advisory Committee, which is currently awaiting final decision-making in the Planning and Sustainable Land Use Committee. And yes, I would support permitting advisory committees to hold public hearings on matters related to their district and forwarding their recommendations directly to the Maui County Council. Now, with the exception of decision-making on SMAs, which is the authority given to the Planning Commission by state law, this proposal, in my opinion, would save time and taxpayer money by reducing the Planning Commission workload and reducing time and costs for using county personnel. Now, although I may be reaching a bit here, but reducing the workload of the Planning Commission and the use of county personnel in this area could give more time for these county individuals to help expedite permit requests from our citizens in other areas. So I certainly support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Molina. Asia Iyer, over to you now. Same question.
Absolutely, I support this. This is a major concern of mine and a main impetus for my candidacy, because we need to increase our emphasis on involvement and democracy, and community advisory committees are a major step in that direction. And furthermore, we need to make sure that they are empowered. They need to have power. They need to have a direct line of authority to the lawmakers. I've served on enough committees to know that another talk-filled, powerless committee is not effective and not efficient. So we need to make sure that we build that into the structure. I envision them as excellent venues for bringing more of our local residents into the decision-making process and encouraging more interaction with our local government. And I also envision them creating community plans that are strictly adhered to and through which elected officials have to weigh their decisions. Our communities are so diverse in topography, environment, population, and economy, and we need these community plans as guides. And I would hope that these committees would increase the transparency of our government's decisions and actions and give our residents and neighborhoods a more clear and accessible government, because we're the ones that are directly affected by these decisions. Mahalo.
Mahalo to you, Asia. Same question to our Hana candidates, and we'll begin with Councilmember Shane Sinensi. Shane, you get to go first this time. 1 minute.
Aloha, Kathy, and mahalo for the question. For many years, residents in rural communities like ours were the last ones to always find out about developments that were happening in our own communities. And so, especially with no opportunity for local residents to weigh in. So I do support community advocacy. I support an advisory committee in Paia Haiku, also in Kihei. Our community advisory committees receive insight from the Planning Commission and are given the chance to provide feedback on special use permit applications, and also the opportunity to provide, special conditions within the permitting process. So I know each of our communities are unique with their own historical precedents, lineal descendants, generational families that make up the character and the pulse of our small communities. And you should be afforded that opportunity, a say in the planning of your own communities. So I'm supportive. Mahalo.
Mahalo. I just want to, since we do have a little bit of time left, so do you support the amending the county code to allow these committees to present their recommendations directly to the county council rather than the planning commission as they presently do?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm sorry I cut you off there. What was the last statement?
I supported it in committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now the same question to Claire Kamalu Carroll. 1 minute.
Thank you, Kathy, for the question. I truly do support it. I have served as the chair of the Hana Advisory Committee. Nothing like the voice of the community to say and participate in the plans of developing a community, whether it be housing, infrastructure, and even water. I think going directly to council would save a lot of time. And there's no better way to have that input directly from the community itself. So to start advisory committees in all areas, Paia, Haiku, Kihei, I am truly supportive of going straight to council instead of taking that extra step. And it would take off a whole workload. I mean, the planning commission is already, they have their hands full, but I think it would save a lot of time with good input from the moku itself. Mahalo.
Mahalo to all four of you. Lucienne, you get to ask the next question.
Mahalo, Kathy. All right, question number 2. So this is a big one. Have you read the Maui Water Use and Development Plan? Question, would you vote to adopt it in its present form, or would you support some amendments being made? We're giving you a minute and a half for this because, it's a several part question and there's some nuances here. So we're going to start with you, Asia. You would go first on this one.
So I have not read the entire 1,200 pages, but I have read through it and kind of tried to stick to parts that I understood. There's a lot of it that's a little out there. I have a number of concerns, and that is why I feel that it needs to be amended and it should not be adopted in its present form. One of my concerns is that the projected use that you find throughout the data, it doesn't seem that it's based on solid research. And I seem to be finding gross overestimations in some areas and then underestimations in others. And so I would like to, for example, there's some corporate farms that are asking for 4,000 gallons per acre. And, and maybe the resorts that are their water use is based on acreage, but it doesn't have to do with the use of that acreage. So there's just discrepancies in there that I don't feel are clear. Also, another thing that's in there is it accounts for a large amount of water loss. I think in the addendum, it says it's 20% of a water loss estimation. And that needs to be addressed because I don't think any water use plan should expect 20% loss of water. It's a very special commodity. So we need to
I'm sorry, Claire. We're at a minute and a half, but
I mean, Asia, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. No, our bad. No, you have more time. She thought it was a minute. See, I thought you keep going. Please. Thank you.
Okay, I could keep going forever. The other thing that bothers me is, again, we're not addressing the nefarious and infamous water meter list. I don't see it on there. I mean, that's 1,200 pages, so maybe I missed it. But why isn't that a big part of the water use plan? How are we going to address this long and horrible water meter list? So these things need to be amended. This is what we as the community have been asking for a long time, to have those issues addressed. And I don't think that we should go through and just approve this water use plan without addressing even those few issues. But there are many others. There's dozens of issues, but those are just the few I can talk about in a minute.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And sorry about the mistake about
It's
time.
okay.
So this is a 1.5 minute question, because it's kind of a big question. It's a big report, and few people have read the whole report. So that's not a wrong answer that you haven't read the whole report. Council Member Molina, it is now your turn.
Yes, thank you very much, Lucienne. And, like Asia said, this is a very long document, 1,200 pages long, very technical. I mean, if you're a technocrat, you would be able to understand. But at the same time, I don't want to throw the water programming director, Ms. Eva Blumenstein, who helped put this plan together, because it's taken a number of years, and it's difficult to put a plan together that has very fluid information, if you know what I mean. It changes because water is not an exact science. But in general, for me, I would like to see a condensed summary of the water use development plan that the layperson can understand. Because if you don't understand something, when looking at something, if you don't understand it, how are you going to comprehend? So for me, I'm not supporting moving it forward until it addresses breaking it down into layperson's terms, and also concerns in this area as to where future wells will be drilled. Of course, the water meter list, and also for what purpose, if water is going to be distributed from this area, where to and for what purpose. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And I also commend the water department, though, for at least coming out to listen to the community. And I know it was said that there were 6 or 7 meetings, but a lot of these meetings were taking place during the day at a time when a lot of people cannot come out and give their input. So I also want to ensure that in this plan, cultural needs are also addressed as to how the water will be used to restore our streams for farming purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving over to the Hana folks, we'll be starting with Kamalu. Carol. Oh, you have to unmute.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying to be good about muting. Anyways, thank you for the question. It is 1,200 pages long. I cannot support it at this time. They've had meetings all over, but I think Haiku has a very important part in this, and not having these meetings to participate on where they're going to drill. It's back to the community, especially Haiku. It is very important for Haiku to be participating in these conversations. And at this time, I cannot support it. It is technical. And I vetted through it, but there's so many questions to be answered before this has ever been signed. Mahalo. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And Council Member Sinensi, are you there in our lineup? It is your turn.
Yes, can you hear me?
1.5 minutes to answer the question about this water use and development plan.
Okay, sorry, I'm using my phone. Can you hear me? We're getting some shoddy internet service.
Yes, we can hear you now, and I can definitely appreciate your situation. I left my home and came someplace else so I could get good service tonight. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, I read some of it, albeit not all of it. And I gotta admit that maybe some of my staff had helped me to read through it. So mahalo to my staff. But yes, at this time, I wouldn't be able to vote to adopt it. The water use development plan, should it be accepted, would be referred to by every environmental assessment applicant for the next 20 years. And so if it's incomplete, outdated, or inaccurate, I think all future EISs would reflect these inaccuracies. So that said, I think we just need to switch out some of the outdated data with new data. I think we need to include the state agriculture water use and development plan when that is updated into this plan. I think we need to correct information include the correct information from the Department of Hawaiian Homelands for water that's used for kalo cultivation and for our kalo farmers. We need to update data from the West Maui and the Wai'eha streams. I think that needs to be updated. And we also need to, I think, put more realistic data for agriculture water use on the former plantation lands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for putting your thoughts into this question. And Kathy, we're back to you for question 3.
Thank you. This next question, we will allow 1 minute each for your answers. And, as we've been alternating our candidates within each race, right now I'm going to switch it up because we've been having our Haiku Paia Makawao candidates go first, although they're alternating within that. This time I'm going to ask the Hana candidates to go first, answering the same question. And I'm pretty sure I know how a couple of you are going to answer this. There are a number of charter amendments on the 2020 ballot this year. Do you support the amendment that establishes a county Department of Agriculture? Why or why not? And Councilmember Shane Sinensi gets to answer this one first.
I thought I would. Thank you, Kathy. As you know, my committee had proposed the Department of Agriculture to be placed on the election ballot. And I must say that we wouldn't have received the support from the other council members if we weren't in a global pandemic, and also for the wording that was included in this charter amendment. I think we put specific language in there of no more regulatory barriers for farmers, and the focus on advocacy for more grant funding for farmers who most oftentimes don't have the time to apply for local, state, or federal grant funding. So I think there's currently a lot of misinformation being shared out there in the media that this department will cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. And just to be perfectly clear, there hasn't been any funds appropriated for this department. The administration will set the budget for this department should Maui County residents support the charter amendment. Right now, Maui County, I think we already spend over $8 million in agriculture grants and ag promotion. And we spend for the smaller department costs, we spend upwards about $700,000. So I think the Department of Agriculture will greatly increase our food security in spite of the pandemic, especially on the islands. So I'd say vote height for this charter amendment.
Thank you very much, Shane. Same question to you, Kamalu. 1 minute.
Aloha, and thank you for the question, Kathy. You guessed right. I face a community who is suffering. We say it's not going to take costs. We don't have tourists here. I appreciate Councilman Sinensi's efforts to in the agriculture department. But who is these monies coming from? We say 2022. But whose pockets? It's our community. I watch thousands of our community members while food distributing and talking with them and how they feel about this amendment. The people will speak on the ballot, but I cannot support something that will take out of our pockets more monies than we can afford. People are now worried. The primary concern is the stress of making your next car payment, your rental, keeping your homes. It's about keeping our people in our homes, not adding extra costs to our residents. It may not be tomorrow, but starting a department will add extra costs. And I believe our community cannot afford that. We are looking at months in even getting our economy and rebuilding it to keep our community here in Hawaii. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Claire, Kamalu. And now to our Haiku Paia Makawao candidates. We'll go to you first, Mike Molina. 1 minute.
Hey, thank you for the question. I'm in an unusual predicament because we were advised recently by the Office of Council Services to not actively lobby or go against any proposed charter amendments. But for the record shows that I did support putting this on the ballot because I felt it was an important enough issue for the public to decide. And the effects of the pandemic has certainly brought greater attention to food sustainability and food security. And the pros to having this Department of Agriculture is it can provide a vehicle for our local farmers to go to and ask for assistance to advocate for our local farmers in helping them promote their products for local and off-island sales. And as it was mentioned earlier, certainly there's a cost. There is a cost to everything, but you can look at it two ways, as an expense or as an investment. So that for me is how I see it. And I know at the previous Haiku Community Association candidate forum, I did state my support for it. So that's already on the record. But anyway, that's my spiel on this whole thing. But I certainly hope, however you feel, just get out there and vote. And, it's not a bad thing for government to change and evolve and look at other areas to make our community greater. And certainly if cost is an issue for you, well, you vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And now, Asia Iyer, you get the last word for this question. 1 minute, please.
Yes, I am supporting all the charter amendments on the ballot. This one, though, I did go in and research what other counties with county departments of agriculture, what do they look like, and does this make a difference for agriculture and for diversifying their economy, and especially counties that deal with tourism and agriculture as their main economies. And you see a big difference and a shift over time with those county departments of agriculture. It's included, and this isn't all just the Department of Agriculture, but it's a shift with how the government approaches agriculture on a county level. It's that increase in advocacy. It's you see the department helping out with grants, with microloans, with water use, with helping farmers understand their finances, advocating and helping them through regulations. All of these things are a part of a county that supports agriculture. You also see it for our keiki, for our children and our grandchildren, where agriculture is made a part of the community. There are more events that support agriculture, more agriculture competitions, and also these counties are able to have pooled resources where they have food hubs and manufacturing that supports the farmers. We can't expect to make this a strong part of our economy without more advocacy at the county level. And I don't support more government spending, but I do support agriculture. And I see this as the way forward. I don't see it as a costly, ineffective department. I agree with Mike on this. I see this as an investment in our future and in my kids' future and in my grandkids' future and in agriculture in Maui County as a whole. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Asia. Thank you, all four of you, in fact. And now back to Lucien for your next question.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, our next question, we're going to start with the Paia Haiku folks. And Asia, you're going to go first. Mike's going to go second, and then we'll go to the Hana folks. This is about changing climate conditions. And the question is, should Maui County be planning for impacts that global climate change could have? And we've changed the question slightly, in general, as well as the impacts that it might have on the amount of rain that might fall on Maui. And what actions would you propose to adjust Maui's economy and growth demands if studies show long-term that things like our coasts get inundated, our rainfall drops? We have these changes that weren't built into our planning model of 40 or 50 years ago. So any thoughts on this and any ideas? And we'll start with you, Asia.
This is a huge question.
It is. Oh, we have 1.5 minutes.
Okay. I talk a lot about this on my website and in the videos that I've made. I do want to address water specifically because we need local control of our water, because whoever controls the water decides where development will be, what crops are grown, and what our economic and natural landscape will be over the next few decades. So we need to assert our rights to have local control over our utilities, especially water and the other utilities. We don't even have a way to know how much water is being used. And so when we look at periods of drought that will most surely come in our future and changing rainfall patterns, as we've seen this year specifically, we need to better monitor water use so that we know how to correctly change that use and amend that use. We also need to get our water utility up to date so that we're not wasting our precious fresh water. As it becomes more precious, our population grows and we have more need in farming. We need to be very careful that we are not seeing 20% waste on water delivery. As far as the other aspects of climate change with shoreline management and just helping us be more resilient, that is a very broad question, but I am very concerned about reefs and what we can do for reef health, because they are probably our best tool for resiliency in climate change, being on these islands. And so we need to get very, very serious about making sure those are entirely watched over, and we are good stewards of our reefs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mike, what do you have to say on this topic?
Well, first thing I want to say, you can go all over the place with this question. It's a heavy one, but I agree. We should be planning for the effects of climate change, with regards to our rainfall. I'm just going to focus on the business aspect of this. Commercial buildings. Commercial buildings account for nearly 20% of water consumption in the United States, and the county needs to continue encouraging and, if necessary, mandate businesses develop a water conservation plan to include, checking for leaks, shutting down cooling units, and using aerated faucets, and other water efficient technology. And as far as landscaping goes, use recycled water for landscaping. The hotels and our parks can do this. And irrigation should be done in the morning or early evening hours to avoid water evaporation, and also installing moisture sensors. They can be used to automatically shut off sprinklers. And finally, using recycled water should be, again, encouraged for not only irrigation, but also boiler systems and cooling units that exist in our hotels, especially like in South Maui, and also other larger businesses. So that, I think, is a good start, because I personally would hate to see government start to mandate and start to fine people when, just by simple measures like this, developing a water conservation plan, if all businesses can do this, then, we won't need to legislate and mandate and fine businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving over to the Hana district seats. Kamalo, you get to go first this time. 1.5 minutes on your thoughts about effects of climate change on water and other parts of our environment, and any solutions you might propose.
Thank you for the question. Climate change, it's happening now. Going to Lahaina, you have to go on low tide. I've seen it today. I was sign waving in Lahaina today. But being a representative of East Maui, we need to address areas such as Hane'o'o. Those residents, there's 4 residents directly affected by climate change. When it comes to water, winter is coming up. Right now, if you go on the Hana Highway, there's hardly any water because there's no rain. We need to plan for this immediately. Kaupo, that is a county road. And putting the state highway to the side right now, we already have a really great representative who has worked hard to get funding to fix the infrastructure on the Hana Highway. But our Kaupo area, they're getting damaged. The wires are rotting. The guardrails, they're nearly disappearing by putting plastic dilatators just for the cars. It's dangerous. This has to be addressed. It's very upsetting that when you pass by in Kahalui that they're doing the water system 10 o'clock in the morning. We're doing these advertisements, but we need to show conserving water is very Climate change is here. It's coming and it's here. We just lost the last large glacier. Our sea level is rising. We need to step up and take care of this now. Mahalo.
Mahalo. And Shane Sinensi, you get the last word here, 1.5 minutes.
Mahalo, Lucian, for the question. Yeah, we've seen temperatures higher than ever seen before. Fires on the West Coast, throughout the world. I think here on the islands, what we can do is to support our smaller organic farms that practice carbon sequestration and soil regeneration by planting more food-producing trees and nitrous-fixing cover crops. I think a concerted effort by all agencies to divert food waste from our landfills and into composting facilities will greatly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and also increase soil health that retains more moisture. Also supporting electric power, solar energy systems within our local communities will greatly reduce carbon emissions caused by vehicular traffic. We've seen marked decreases of stream water in our stream beds due to the limited rainfall and from the extended dry season. So I think that's why it's important that we not so quickly grant water leases to outside corporations before we can secure and guarantee water usage for our local communities. By implementing more modern data collecting devices that can detect waterways and that can help us fix some outdated transmission systems. Mahalo.
Thank you. Well, a lot of thoughtful comments. Thank you, guys. Back to you, Kathy, for our next question. Are we there?
Sorry about that. Okay, a group of county production wells are being discussed for the Haiku area, but for the community, many questions remain unanswered. Data is needed about how many Haiku residents are relying on springs or domestic wells, how many residents currently need water service but can't sign up for meters, which areas of the Haiku aquifer have been polluted by ag chemicals, which streams are connected to coastal springs, what are the effects of thousands of cesspools on local water quality. Our question for you is, who will pay for getting all of this data that will be needed to determine Haiku's present and future needs for water? You have 1 minute to answer these questions. We'll start with our Hana candidates and begin with our incumbent. Shane, you have 1 minute.
Aloha, Kathy. Mahalo for the questions. Yeah, prior to any plans for future production wells in Haiku, I think a more thorough study should first be conducted by the Department of Water Supply and paid for by them. When we look at the 2010 Water Use Development Plan, it refers to uncertainties of water quality, water quantities, and just exuberant pumping expenses related to the Haiku area. So I feel this plan should first address the Paia Haiku Community Plan that specifically mentions for provisions for sufficient groundwater sources for Haiku residents that are still waiting on the water meter list. The plan also needs to comply with the East Maui Consent Decree that includes plans to restore stream floor to Haiku streams. And of course, pesticide use during the plantation times that affected some of the aquifers in Haiku. So I would like to see, anticipated more additional funds towards treatment costs should wells show traces of contaminations from past ag chemical usage. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Shane. Same question to you, Kamalu Carol. 1 minute, please.
Aloha. I want to cut right into the chase on who's going to pay for this, who's going to pay for the data. I think we all know the answer. When we talk about data and who's paying for this, it'll be our community. Even though we support Haiku, there should be more discussion on how we're going to get the funding. And it comes down to the budget and how we're going to make things work. When it comes to cesspools, who can afford it? We have a long-time families, a lot of people on set incomes. These are things that we need to take some time and see what we will do, what is best for our community, and make good decisions. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Claire. And now we turn to our Haiku Makawao Paia candidates. And Mike, you get to go first this time.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. And this is certainly justification for including all of these issues into the water use development plan from this area. What the council can do is appropriate funds, excuse me, to the water department to go out and commission a private entity, a non-biased entity, to do a study of the whole area to address some of these issues. Now, looking beyond next year, we don't know what the financial resources will be like for the county, but if I'm returned to the council, I'll certainly lobby my fellow colleagues to support funding a study like this, because these are certainly viable issues that have come up in the community, and we need to know how water is going to be used, where it's going to be distributed at. And, I also believe we need to get state involvement from the state, Representative De Coyte or whoever, for funding assistance as well. And certainly the State Water Resources Commission has a stake in all of this. So just in general of the funding, I think, again, it's a worthwhile study and investment that the council can consider. Now, the price range of a study like this could go anywhere between $200,000 to $500,000, but I feel it needs to be done personally, and that's something I would support if I'm returned to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Same question to you, Asia.
So we have a huge problem in our county with obtaining and unveiling accurate and non-biased data and research. And our budget reflects this, because you don't see money appropriated to the departments that need to do the research, and you see a lot of money going towards legal fees and toward corporation counsel. It's like the county just goes in and does things and then hopes nobody gets upset and nobody sues them. And then when they do, we waste that budget on fighting those things. It can't happen anymore. We need to be very transparent. We need to have very accurate data and research coming out, and we need to make sure that we are covering all of these aspects before we go into projects like these. This could be potentially very harmful for people who live there and rely on those spring waters. And this is something that we should have been collecting this data for time, since time began. I mean, this should have been stuff that was watched over a long time ago. So we need to have the county needs to appropriate the money to the appropriate department. The research needs to be done, and then we go forward with these plans, not the other way around. And we need to stop trying to cover our mistakes with fighting legal battles, because that's what's eating up our budget. It's not the research that's eating our budget. It's fighting our bad choices and bad decisions.
Thank you, Asia. Thank you, all candidates. Now to you, Lucienne, next question.
All right, I'm unmuted. Our next question, we're going to go back to the Haiku reps to begin off here. And Asia, I think you're going to be first because you went last time. This is connected, I guess, to the last question. This came from a couple people in the community. Would you support full and fair compensation for any resident whose access to domestic water is diminished as a result of county water projects that export water from one district to another? 1 minute. Food for thought.
I'm not an expert in this area, but I feel like there is a precedent set in the country for when you see diminished water supply through other actions, there is compensation, and there is a legal precedence for this. So definitely, again, this goes back to that's why they're connected. It goes back to data gathering and making sure the research is really sound, and that if if you're someone who is using spring water or relies on a stream, you need to make sure that you're taking very accurate readings, and so that you can show that your water delivery is being diminished through other projects. The Maui Water Use and Development Plan is an attempt to address a lot of these issues, but again, we need that further research, and it needs to be more complete, and we need to make sure that it's addressing the concerns of the community before we put it in there. And so aspects like this are addressed before they even come up. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mike Molina.
Thank you, Lucianne. Well, I'm open to the discussion of this. While water is considered a public resource and vital to the growth of all communities, the cost of water distribution and impacts to the community in which it is taken from must be given equal consideration, especially if our rainfall is impacted by climate change. I empathize with those who are culturally and economically impacted by the distribution of water from their community to another. A clear, transparent community discussion needs to take place as to what the reasons are for distributing water from one community to another. And again, will it be used for future business growth, affordable housing, or both, and appropriate compensation if there are, and hopefully no legal challenges. Because, I hate to be pessimistic about it, but, I can foresee potential challenges on this. But anyway, I'm going to be optimistic now and hopeful that the outcome could potentially be a win-win. Otherwise, we could be engaged in a long, costly court battle, resulting in the cost of thousands of taxpayer dollars. And again, another reason for the water use and development plan to get these things addressed in them. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Mahalo very much. Moving over to the Hana district candidates, Kamalu, would you like to share your thoughts on this? Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted. I didn't know. Kamalu, it is your turn to share your thoughts on this question. The idea that if people have springs or wells that would be affected by a larger county project, if there's support for them to have some sort of compensation if they lose their water supply.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. For me, it's the residents first, everything else later. The compensation, we shouldn't be taking from a resident who's already depending on the resources. They always come first, residents first. And that comes up for discussion and what we should do. And that conversation should be between the county and the resident to have that resident voice. Mahalo.
Thank you. I forgot to mention it's a 1-minute question, but you all were very good about that. All right, we're moving over to our 7th question. And Kathy, this one's for you.
I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't get to answer yet.
The night is growing old. Shane Sinensi, your thoughts on this important question?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. This is a great question. I think East Maui communities have been seeing stream diversions out of their district for over 100 years. And so if this pandemic has taught us anything, it is our chance to finally address some of these inequalities and systemic inequities, including access to water. Hawaiian kalo farmers have been fighting for their rights to the public trust for years, and they continue to do so. So I can relate to Haiku residents. That being said, I support repatriation funding mechanisms to Haiku residents who see their district resources being transmitted outside of their district, or even a reduction in their water use rates. Mahalo.
Thank you. Well, to clarify, this is about individuals who have springs, and a lot of times if you'll have a large well upslope, your spring just doesn't flow anymore. And if you have no other water supply, then it's like, and there's no county water meters, what do you do? So that it seemed like it was a good time to start asking those kind of questions.
Wait.
Yeah.
You can't touch it. I'm on a meeting.
We are moving on now to our next question. Kathy, you want to take on question 7?
Yes, and I believe this may be the last question that we have time for, given that we do want to give all of our candidates adequate time for their closing statements as well. But this is a 1-minute question, and we will, Shane Sinensi will get the first opportunity to answer. Haiku has grown tremendously in the last 20 years. For the last decade, a haiku fire station has been proposed. Now, in the current economic environment, what would you need to know to support funding for construction of a new station in Haiku? We go to you first, Shane Sinensi.
Mahalo, Kathy, and I apologize. We've got a multi-generational household. We're all vying for the internet, so excuse me.
You mean you don't get any special pull being a council member? Oh,
right? No.
Man. I'm sorry.
I think. Yeah, real quick. I think due to this pandemic, and anticipating a reduction in the TAT revenues, this council was forced to cut a lot of the CIP projects or defer them to a later date. But I think this council did continue those CIP projects that were bond funded and utilize the county's credit rating. This council is supportive of retraining the unemployed portion of the workforce to help to streamline some of the CIP projects that are already funded. I support a new Haiku fire station, and if the Department of Water Supply wants Haiku water, I strongly feel that that's a prerequisite that should be addressed. Haiku's principal concerns, including fire hydrant infrastructure and a new community fire station. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Kamalu, it's your turn. 1 minute, please.
Mahalo for the question. You would happen to know I'm in Haiku right now. Very familiar. The growth has exceeded. A fire station is important. You know, Mike spoke about this back in 2018. We need to work on that and see where we can get this fundings. Water is important. Obviously, if we have a fire station, we will need water. Water is very important for all manner. We have houses being built. The school right now is at its capacity due to COVID-19. We don't nearly have as much children in school, but the reality of it, if we get through this pandemic, is the school large enough? It's not. There's two things we need to concentrate on, but the fire department, I truly support it. They come from Paia, and sometimes it's too late by the time they come to Paia, Haiku side. I frequently see the firefighters coming on this side and taking care of visitors who go into lands and get themselves into traps by rainfall and flooding because they chose to go into lands that without respect. It takes out of our taxpayers' dollars. But to allocate funding to Haiku is much, much needed. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kamalu. And now to our Haiku Paia Makawao candidates. And we'll begin with you, Mike Molina.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, this is an issue certainly I'm quite familiar with. Back on my first go-around on the council worked with the administration and the fire department to secure a piece of land in Haiku. But later on, it was discovered that there are some water line issues in terms of the cost. So recently, the community has approached myself as well as the administration to look at other sites in the area for a future fire station. The council recently appropriated funds for a study to consider various sites, which I'm supportive of, because I think we need to look somewhere else to alleviate some of the cost with developing a fire station. And at this point, I think the county could either sell the existing site or do a land swap, then move forward to fund planning and design of the new station, and then followed by funding via cash or bond to begin construction, because the community certainly needs one. It will not only are there safety benefits, but it could potentially lower homeowners' insurance costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And now to you, Asia. 1 minute, please.
This is a hard one to have the last word because so much has been covered already by everybody. But maybe I could just address, sometimes we get wary of government spending during economic recessions or depressions or pandemics. But this is a case where we need to look at how are we improving. We need to preserve employment at all costs. And we need to clean house when we have these opportunities. And this is a great opportunity to see where there's a huge puka here that the Haiku community does not have a fire station that's accessible and quick. And I mean, Haiku is a huge area. I work with nonprofits that cover the entire area. And the fact that there's a fire station there, that needs to be addressed immediately. And this is a case where we don't need to be so wary of government spending because it's preserving jobs, it's creating jobs, and it's improving our community. And most importantly, it's encouraging resiliency in the long term. So yes, support that. And I hope it happens soon because I'm right on the edge of Makwa and Haiku. And that's something that may save my life or one of my children's lives someday. So definitely support that.
Thank you very much, Asia. Thank you to all of you. Lucien, I think because our candidates have been so nice and concise in their answering, I believe we do have time for one more question if you would like to present that.
Yes, let's go for question number 8, our last question of the evening. And we will start with the Haiku Paia folks. So we will start, I believe, with you, Asia. Again, you're just so popular here. So you get the first word this time. Our question is, what is your view of the balance between the growth in tourism and preservation of Maui's unique natural and cultural resources? It's a 1-minute question, kind of philosophical, not asking for any budgets, but just, your operating philosophy.
I love this question. Again, I go into it deeply in my videos and website. A balance of tourism doesn't need to be anti-tourism. But we have been marketing tourism for a long time using taxpayer dollars, and it's now grown beyond a sustainable amount. So, and then in an ironic twist, it was turned off to zero by the government. So we don't see really this balance at all. There's been no balance. We need to prioritize, number one, local residents and the preservation of our natural resources and cultural resources. So our tax structure needs to reflect that. We need to stop overtaxing small businesses and residences, which we do, and over-regulating small businesses and local businesses. And we need to turn that tax structure so that we are more appropriately taxing tourism. As was pointed out earlier, we tax tourism at one of the lowest rates in the country. And we are the 3rd highest, most touristed place in the world. Maui County is the 3rd highest. And the 2 above us are tiny little islands in the Caribbean. So we should be taxing tourism so that we can mitigate tourism and so that we see better services for our local residents and that we prioritize residents. Our kids should not be at schools that are falling apart and unpainted and without air conditioning while tourists come and enjoy top-notch, resorts and our best beaches. I mean, we should have all of our departments should be well-funded and efficient and effective instead of us focusing all of our attention on tourism. This is the shift that needs to happen. And this pandemic, as much as I hate this pandemic and it's been so hard, this needs to be the time that we change how we treat tourism. Thank you.
We've reached our time. I can tell you're passionate about that. Mr. Molina, jumping right in. I know you have thoughts too.
A little bit, yeah. I see it necessary to change our approach to balance the tourism growth while, preserving our natural and cultural resources. The industry itself has started changing the marketing approach, which is good, but it's still a work in progress. We need to move away from marketing Hawaii as just a place to go to the beach and go to luau's. I support the sustainable tourism concept, which promotes responsible tourism and educational programs as it relates to respecting our host culture and local environment. I'm supportive of a reservation and fee system being implemented for culturally and environmentally sensitive areas for non-residents who go out there. And I'm also a firm supporter of promoting eco and agritourism. And again, the marketing narrative should change to also include as well what some call holistic tourism. Come to Hawaii as a place to, relieve stress, get away from the big city, and reconnect your body, mind, and soul with the land and water spiritually. Because especially in the chaotic world we live in, I think this is where Hawaii is a wonderful place on this planet to come to. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping to the 1 minute. Moving right over to the Hana folks. I believe we're going to have Shane Sinensi go next.
Okay, mahalo for the question. I guess I wanted to take some time to say I support reservation systems at all Hawaii parks and high traffic visitor sites. There are successful models at Haiku State Park on Kauai, at Haleakala National Park for sunrise visits. We had Superintendent Gates share how visitors were parking on cultural sensitive areas and going beyond the park safety barriers and thereby making the experience for other visitors less than satisfactory. So there are current talks to extend those reservation systems to Wainapanapa State Park, hopefully at Kipahulu National Park and on the Hana Highway. Reservation systems would greatly manage the number of cars entering into our small communities and ultra-sensitive cultural areas. My committee also urged the state legislature to consider visitor impact fees tacked on to every airline ticket and cruise line ticket to help fund environmental and cultural resources similar to the impact fees that are required at the Galapagos Islands.
Thank you. I think our time. Thank you very much. And our last word is Kamala Carol. Share your thoughts on this.
Yes, I commend Senator English for introducing this idea along with Lynn De Coyte in doing the reservation system, and that would be on the state side. On the county issues, I would surely support more education to the airlines, rental car companies. When visitors come to Hawaii, what it is to be respectful to our culture, enjoy the islands. Only reason a lot of people come to Maui, we're one destination. I've been in the hospitality business for over 20 years. I've made really great friends all over the world. But it's the education of our visitors. Right now with COVID-19, we have a reset button. This is the time to invest in getting that education out to our visitors. Reservation system, I'm very much for it. But on the county side, we can do our part as council members to get that education out to our visitors as they come and re-enter into Hawaii. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Well, Kathy, do you want to lead us into our closing statements?
Our closing statements, we will go in the reverse order from your opening statements, but you each have 1 minute, 60 seconds to deliver your closing remarks. We will begin with Councilmember Mike Molina.
Thank you. With regards to the charter amendment proposal, I just wanted to also add that if I'm reelected, I will do my best to implement any and all charter amendments if they're passed by the people and seek funding if necessary. We live in challenging and unprecedented times. The events surrounding the pandemic call for calm, level-headed, strong leadership. During my career as a school teacher and elected official, I've tried to develop an air of transparency, cooperation, and fairness. And even though I may not have always agreed with my colleagues on all issues, I've dedicated myself to working together to achieve the ultimate goal of doing what's best for our residents. And for us to regain our strength, we need a council that will continue to work together to develop programs and provide funding that will ensure our health and safety and rebuild our economy. I'm pleased with my efforts over the last few years, and I will continue my efforts if I'm returned to office. to respond. I place a great emphasis on customer service by doing my best to respond to the calls from constituents, emails, and all of the correspondence that go with it. And I'll definitely remain accessible. And I want to thank the public for the opportunity to have served you and respectfully request your consideration to serve you again. So everyone, please be safe, stay healthy, and God bless. And don't forget, no matter where you live, you can vote for Mike Molina or any and all of the council candidates. Mahalo and God bless.
Mahalo, Mike. Asia Iyer, we turn to you next. 1 minute, please.
I want to thank everyone who's viewing this for doing your best to become an informed voter and for paying attention to our local elections, because they are so immensely important. And the more that you can spread the word about being an informed voter and about taking the time to research the candidates and the charter amendments, you do good for our community. And so I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. And I just want to give that last plug for those 7 charter amendments. They were put on through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears by our great council members, by the community members. This is how we get our county to be more efficient and for the operations to run more smoothly and to support a better economy here. So please research those charter amendments. And I hope that you come to that same conclusion that I have, that voting yes is what is best for our county and for our future. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Asia. We move on to you, Council Member Shane Sinensi. 1 minute, please.
Mahalo, Kathy, and also mahalo to Lucianne, Mr. Wolf, and Miley tonight, and also to the Haiku Community Association for inviting me tonight, and for your continued advocacy for local environmental protections, including our cultural inventories. If reelected, I promise to hold the people's interests first, not corporate interests that seek to profit off of our public trust. The coronavirus pandemic has forced us to pump the brakes on tourism, so diversification of our economy will be critical for our county to move forward. I hope my work on the council and my voting decisions have represented the needs of the local community, and that you consider my reelection for another term to the county council. For more information, please visit my campaign website at votesinensi.today or send correspondence to Friends of Shane Sinensi, PO Box 343, Hana, Hawaii 96713. Mahalo and good evening to everyone.
Mahalo, Shane. Claire Kamalu Carroll, you have the last word. 1 minute, please.
Aloha. It is with great appreciation for today's forum, and I thank all the candidates that attended to be here. This is exactly why I cannot support charter amendments. I am a mother, a grandmother, a generational person. I come from a small town, 2,000. And I have worked hard to support my community and not beholden to anyone. I have an open door always where my community members can come to me and address their concerns. As a council candidate, I will always remain as an open door person where the community can speak and bring those concerns, whether large or small. I am a candidate of fairness and communication to all. I ask you for your consideration in this election year in 2020 for Maui County Council, East Maui seat. You can visit my website at claireformaui.com. Mahalo Haiku. I really appreciate all of you, and I hear your concerns.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Kamalu. Thank you to all 4 of you, not only for taking the time to participate in this evening's forum, but for the time and energy and the commitment that you've made to running for public office. We appreciate that very much. Mahalo also to Teresa Kapaku and State Representative Lynn De Coyte for joining us this evening. To the Haiku Community Association, Akaku, thank you so much. And mostly I would like to thank our viewers, our voters, for taking the time out of their schedules to join us and learn more, get involved more. It's all about civic engagement and involvement. Tomorrow evening's forum will feature the candidates running for the council seats covering the Molokai, Lanai, West Maui, South Maui, and Kahului districts. Same time, 6:30 here on Akaku and Facebook Live. If you want to join via Zoom, you do have to get a new link for that. Make sure you sign up for that. I'm Kathy Collins, and I'm going to ask Lucy and Danae if she has any final thoughts or remarks before we jump back on here tomorrow evening.
Mahalo nui loa to all of our candidates, and to you, Kathy. You've just made this seamless. And to the folks at Akaku who are working out all the kinks, to our great Miley Davis, who is our project manager for the Haiku Community Association, has taken on some great projects and done them all very well. And basically, we're excited about coming back tomorrow and hearing from the rest of our candidates. And your ballots will be arriving very soon, possibly tomorrow or the next day. So please tune in, tell your friends and family to tune in and hear directly from the people who want to represent you, because we have a great crop of people running. We thank them for their service, that they're willing to put their lives on hold and run for public office. And we'll see you all tomorrow night, same time, same place. Ahui ho.
Aloha.